Warm greetings from the High 10. This is Everyday Shenanigans, and thanks for joining me. Happy Martin Luther King Day. Hope everyone is safe and enjoying their day off if you are off today. I want to do something new on the channel, and I would like to discuss movies. I like to do at least a movie a week if I can. And right now, my pick is A Fall from Grace, produced, written, directed by Mr. Tyler Perry. It is now streaming on Netflix. It is his first debut of filming a movie through the Netflix corridor, and it was filmed over a 5-day period before Christmas. I think he did a pretty good job for a 5-day filming of a movie. It has a interesting cast. Familiar faces are in this movie. He wrote this before Acrimony, which starred Miss Taraji P. Henson back in 2018. It is the first film he's done for the Netflix, and it has received some bad hype because of the stereotypes of movies that Mr. Tyler Perry has done pertaining to the lives of African American women and their decisions and choices. But as I state, it is a very good movie because it has a twist in it that is unexpected. It has a very interesting plot and a mind-blowing twist that you will not see coming, which is different than any other film that he has done. So I recommend this, and I'm going to discuss this movie today. The star of the movie is Miss Crystal Fox. You will remember her from In the Heat of the Night. She was a cop on that film back in her heyday in the 80s. Her name is Grace Waters. She will be the star of this film. There is Brescia Webb, who stars as Jasmine Bryant, Miss Grace's attorney. Sarah, who is Felicia Rashad. This will be Grace's friend. Cicely Tyson plays Alice, an elderly lady who is also in the film. Tyler Perry will make an appearance in the film as Miss Jasmine's boss, because she's working for the public defender's office and he is her boss. You will also meet Mr. McCod Brooks, who is Shannon, the young lover that Miss Grace eventually marries in the storyline. And then it's Adrian Pastar, who is the prosecutor, Bradley Tankerton. Let me start by saying I enjoyed the film. I love movies. I am a movie fan. I love mysteries, mainly. That's my thing. I am a mystery person. I love anything that has a good mystery, a good thriller. Let me start by saying Grace is a woman who is divorced. She has a son. She has not been dating or seeing anyone. So her friend, who is Felicia Rashad in the movie, who plays Sarah recommends she gets out, mingle, try to meet somebody, since she has not been dating. So she goes to an art gallery of a showing of photographs, by the recommendation of Miss Sarah, her friend. And Grace meets a young gentleman, not knowing he is the artist's photograph she's viewing. And they become acquainted once she realizes who he is, once he's introduced by the lady at the art show. They take on with one another. They date, they court. She soon marries this gentleman. He moves into her home. And this is when she realized Mr. Shannon is not the guy she thought she knew. He turns on her. He becomes secretive in conversations outside of the bedroom. She catches him. He tells her not to question him. He later tells her why. He gives her some rule, some old made-up excuse that he was talking business with someone. She forgives him. And then it gets worse. She's called in, by her boss and a group of colleagues at the bank where she works to say that she has stolen money from the bank. So now she's trying to figure out who has stolen her identity and stolen money from the bank using her passwords. So they send her home without a job and tell her that she has so many days, to recover the money. So of course she confides in her husband. He acts like he's concerned, but she's worried and leery and wondering what is going on. Okay? And you start to wonder yourself, well, who stole her password? Couldn't be the new husband, could it? She also finds out a mortgage has been taken out on her home that she has been paid for 4 years. So now you start to see that these things that are happening to Miss Grace are closer to home, and that possibly it is not an outsider who's exacting this fraud and identity theft against her. So she accuses her husband. And he basically lets her know that whatever she has is his. And oh well. She realizes she has married a demon. He is a monster. And he has exacted, stealing her identity from her. And does not care. He also brings in a strange woman into the home. And the girl thinks that this older woman is his mother. And never does she let on to the lady when she finds he and she in the bed with one another that she is actually his wife. Confronts him, pushes her out, boom. They come down the stairs and they're laughing and joking. And the girl is thinking that this is his mother and that they just had sex in his mother's home. But this is his wife. Yes, honey, the plot thickens. So now she's distraught. Her home has been mortgaged by her husband. She gets verification through the bank and surveillance that he walked in and mortgaged her home, stole the money with her passwords because she works at a bank. So now she is facing being arrested for fraud from her job, and now her home has been refinanced by her husband. And he knew what he was doing because as he let her know, in this state, I am your husband and what is yours is mine. The plot gets worse because she starts to start digging around and start realizing that something is amiss. And she's telling the story to her young attorney. And the attorney starts to think that maybe she's in over her head with this case because she's known to do plea deals. And so the attorney, who is also married, she confides in her husband, about the case. And he's basically telling her to, stay steadfast with the case. He knows she is competent. She can do her job. And then the attorney realizes that there's something amiss with the story. That something is not right with the story. Because she is talking to her from a jail. Because Miss Grace is accused of killing her husband. And in this film, you will see her beat her husband with a bat and throw him down into the basement. And then she's later accused of murdering her husband. And this is when the young lady comes in to represent her. And you see jail visits during this movie, and she's going into the jail talking to her, the young lady. But due to the fact that she's not really adamant about being an attorney and having second thoughts, she starts to realize that as she's getting the story spun to her by Miss Grace, she realized something is not right. And she starts investigating and seeing things for herself about the storyline. And things are not adding up. And that everyone has had a secret. And the secret is, besides her marrying this younger man who portrayed himself as an artist, he was not. It's a sad tale of a woman looking for love, and she found it in all the wrong places. And this attorney is going back and forth with her boss, who Mr. Perry, Tyler Perry stars as her boss, Rory. And he's basically telling her, you are a plea dealer, get the plea done. What's taking you so long? The prosecutors are waiting on you. Why aren't you doing your job? And she even defies the court by saying, even in court, that she wanted Miss Sarah, the friend, to testify because she started putting things together that didn't add up. The gist of the story is this. Besides this lady marrying this man soon after meeting him, he was not an artist. That lady, Sarah, her friend, they knew each other. Yes, the young man that Miss Grace married, Shannon, is friends with her friend Sarah. Not only a friend, but Sarah's son. They have been scheming and scamming elderly people. Ah, yes. Sarah have women chained up in her basement. And she has been using her son to help her defraud elderly women out their money and holding them hostage in her house. And all this comes to fruition with the attorney snooping around, going to the house by meeting one of the ladies who was staying in Sarah's house on a visit. And this is Cicely Tyson. And Cicely Tyson plays Alice. And Alice just happens to be at the home one day when the young attorney goes to visit Sarah to get information about the storyline. And one day she confronts Alice, and Alice is talking to her, and Miss Sarah wasn't around. And Alice starts talking and mumbling off an address, and that's when the young attorney goes to the address and puts two and two together. That this is also a place where a elderly woman had jumped off the roof or a window, jumped out of a window. And she started realizing something wasn't right with the story. So she started putting things together. And then we find out, as she's taking the lady back into this home, the husband is not dead. He is alive with bandages around his head, ties her up and put her downstairs in that basement with the other women in a separate room. So now you see her friend Sarah is the mother of Grace's husband. And now the attorney has got locked into this volatile situation by being hostage in a downstairs basement with the other said elderly women. The husband goes looking for his wife because the profile of Sarah comes up, and he realizes Sarah has a criminal background while he's trying to arrest a gentleman on a separate charge. And Sarah's name comes up on his computer in his police car. And he rushes over to that said house where Sarah lives. And he realizes, hey, is my wife here? Of course, Sarah tells her, no, she's not here. But when Sarah shuts the door, he hears his wife's phone ring because he's dialing her number outside on the porch. He busts the door down. He struggles with Miss Sarah, goes looking for his wife, gets in entanglement with Shannon, the guy who's supposed to be dead, Grace's husband. This is a wicked, wicked tale. Of course, everyone comes out okay. The truth comes out. The husband is shot by the young attorney because as they were fighting, her husband and Mr. Shannon, she gets the gun and she shoots him. So the truth is revealed that Shannon was alive all this time and Miss Grace had sat in jail for this man because they never had a body, mind you. Sorry I didn't let you know that. But they never had a body. But there was blood in the basement, which led people to believe she had murdered him and hid his body. At one point, you may have thought the son was involved. But lo and behold, it was her friend who orchestrated this scheme to defraud her own friend, using her son to help her defraud her own friend. And that is the sad part of the story, is that Grace trusted this lady, Sarah. And all along, she knew that she worked at the bank, and she used her son to bait her, date her, marry her, and defraud her and set her up, steal over $300-something thousand from the bank, and then her house was mortgaged for over about $375,000. And all along, she also had been defrauding other elderly women out their personal effects and belongings. And the lady who had jumped off the roof at that old address, that was the alias that the son was using, because that elderly lady was a photographer. And the son, who is Shannon, used her name for his ruse to bait Miss Grace. I think the sad part of this is that these things do happen. Although this is not based on a true story, but they said it mimics some stories that have been in the news, and the truth was revealed. The only part that got me the most was how was he able, it's a movie, of course, and you wonder, well, if the lady was the actual Miss Shannon, then how did they bury her and what name was used for her if that was her home? and she lived there and everything was in her name, what name was used when they buried her. But of course, they never show you that in the movie. But that was just something that I thought about when watching the movie. But it's a very good movie. It's a very good thriller. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I think Tyler Perry did a pretty good job. But the thing I learned the most from this movie is kind of reference to the story I brought you about The Vanishing Bride. You see, women, we can be very weak in looking for love. We go out here, we meet people we don't know, we believe the things that they tell us, and even when we see the signs that something is not right, we still go forward and date them anyway, and sadly even marry them, knowing something was not right with them. And this is another tragic tale of a lady who had not been dating, and she listened to her friend to go to a art gallery, a showing, and all along it was her friend who set her up with this man who happened to be her son. But Grace didn't know that, and she married him hastily and got defrauded by he and his mother, which was her friend, but she didn't know that at the time. And she could have ended up in penitentiary for murder had that young lawyer not put two and two together that something wasn't right with the case and started investigating and going back to the old address where the elderly lady had mentioned the address, and she remembered hearing that address and realized that something was amiss. We all make mistakes in dating people, meeting people, and I think this was an interesting story to show that we as women make terrible mistakes sometimes in liking people, being interested, that we believe the things that men tell us, the lies and the stories and the versions, and even when we see signs that something isn't right, secretive conversations, too head fast and wanting to live with you, move in with you. Now they know your personal business. And now they can use these things against you, take you for everything that you have. It has happened to many women, men as well. But you have to take heed. You really need to get to know people before dating them and especially marrying them. This guy was too young for her, for one, but she married him anyway. And I'm not saying that she couldn't have married a young man and he couldn't have treated her well. Of course, it's just a movie. But sometimes you have to think, is it logical to marry a man when you're damn near old enough to be his mother? Did you ever go to his place? Now, this is real life talk. Why is a grown man who's productive moving in your house? You see where I'm going with that? Of course. See, a grown man should have his own home, his own car, finances, bank accounts, all of that. And these are the things that a lot of women overlook with men. And I say this to any woman. He doesn't have his own car, you don't have anything to talk about. He doesn't have his own apartment, condo, bank account, you don't have anything to talk about. It's idle conversation. Sex, perhaps, but that's all it could ever be, because he can't offer you anything. And if he's more concerned about your finances and how you're living, which that was one red flag I noticed in the movie when he asked about her husband. Oh, was he rich? Well, that means you're rich. She should have saw the signs then, but she didn't. And once again, it's just a movie. But I want you ladies to stay safe out there. I thought I'd bring you this movie because it's a great movie. It's streaming on Netflix. A Fall from Grace, a Tyler Perry production. Written, directed by Mr. Tyler Perry. I think he did a pretty good job, especially a 5-day film of filming. I think he did damn well. But I want you women to take heed, because a lot of us are out here who are single still, looking for love, looking to meet that perfect gentleman, and you need to be very careful of the people you meet, partake with, share your secrets, your innermost feelings with, because you don't know people. And although this is just a movie, but it is a cautionary tale, nonetheless, that you need to know who you're talking to, who you're sharing your innermost feelings with, divulging personal secrets, information with, because you don't know people. I say this to you all the time. You don't know people. And this is for you, Missy Dosh. You want a saying from my mother, and yes, she had many sayings. You don't want a man you can't get a hot dog out of, okay? If you can't even get a hot dog out of him, you don't need him. And Mama was right. Yes, Lord. If you can't get a hot dog out of him, you surely can't get nothing else from him. Tune in to Netflix, you guys. Fall from Grace, a Tyler Perry production. Very good film. I recommend it. You all have any more suggestions of any new films you want to talk about or discuss? Drop your comments below. Like and share. Thanks a lot. Ladies, stay safe out there. Be mindful, leery. Be careful of the people you partake with, because you don't know who you're talking to. Just stay safe. Be mindful of the children. Happy MLK Day. Love you guys. Thanks a lot. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.